Hi guys, so I was wearing Aventus the other day and I wore it I just had to go to the bank and pay a couple of checks in, so I was queuing up in the bank, just wearing Aventus, not really thinking about that though, just getting on with my day, and this lady came rushing up behind me and she tapped me on the shoulder and I turned round and I said, "Oh, before you ask, it's Aventus, it's by Creed." And she looked at me a little bit funny and then she said, "Okay, I just wanted to tell you dropped your wallet on the floor." And she was quite right, I had. Hello everyone, so something a little bit different today. I was on Fragrantica the other day and I found an old article on there from February 2016, and it was called Top 10 Male Fragrances Every Beginner Should Sample, and it was written by Vuckevic, a Fragrantica contributor and I think fragrance type journalist. So I was really interested to have a look at the list and I thought I'd run you through her top 10 and I want to hear what you think about them. These are 10 fragrances and I guess they're aimed at people who are just getting interested in fragrances a little bit seriously and want to explore some of the best, most interesting ones out there. They're all designer fragrances, so they're going to be easy for people to find. That was one of her criteria, and I think they're aimed at people. They're not like the easiest to wear ones, so it's not Bleu de Chanel or stuff that's really safe and crowd pleasing. They're ones that are a little bit interesting. Some of them can be very crowd pleasing too, but she's tried to give us something to get our teeth or nostrils into that's not too generic or samey. So it's an interesting list. Let's see what we think about them. So the first one on her list was Chanel Egoiste. This one was released way back in 1990. It's a sweet, woody, oriental kind of scent. Some of the important notes in this one include cinnamon, rose, there's tangerine in the top. I think we've got some vanilla and sandalwood. Really nice sandalwood fragrance. Kind of spicy, woody, somewhat sweet fragrance. Smells quite mature and grown up. Very deep, very rich. Quite masculine, yet somehow it's also got a sweetness about it. Really intriguing, great scent, different to a lot of Chanel's modern crowd-pleasing type stuff in the Chanel Allure line, and a real classic. So what do you think about that one? Good place to start with fragrances? Could be. Next up, she said Dior Homme, of course, an absolute classic. Now, she did say, could this possibly be bettered? And then she said, yes, it has, Dior Homme Intense. I don't own Dior Homme, but I've got Dior Homme Intense. So the key distinguishing thing about Dior Homme Intense and Dior Homme is the use of the note of iris. In Dior Homme Intense, we've got that lipstick iris kind of vibe, which is also in the original Dior Homme, and both of them have a little bit of a vanilla cocoa kind of thing, but that's more going on here with the Dior Homme Intense version, which has a real sort of sweet, waxy depth about it. So really interesting, modern kind of fragrance, using that feminine lipstick-esque iris note and somehow making it smell sort of masculine, very rich, and a real fascinating fragrance. Either Dior Homme, the original EDT, or the Parfum version, or this intense one. There's three main versions that smell really kind of similar but different. There are other flankers too, but I would go Dior Homme EDT, the intense, or if you want a more leathery, really masculine version, the Parfum is also really good, but harder to find in your shops maybe. So what do we think about that one? Next up, she surprised me a bit because she went with Azzaro Pour Homme, the 1978 barbershop aromatic fougere type fragrance. This one's been on our shelves for absolute years then. It's a very herbaceous fragrance with anise giving it a sort of licoricey vibe. It's very musky, sort of fresh but clean, but dirty. Dirty, fresh cleanness, if that makes any kind of sense. A sort of real masculine vibe. Musky, rich, fern-like. A very classic and significant fragrance in the history of fragrances. Maybe a little off-putting for some people these days. So if you did want to try an aromatic fougere fragrance, but something you're more likely to like if you haven't tried too many, I would suggest Rive Gauche Pour Homme from Yves Saint Laurent, which takes Azzaro Pour Homme, I think, just cleans it up a little bit, makes it a little bit more fresh, and has a kind of shaving foam vibe in there, but also the same kind of fern-like notes, the lavender that's in both of them, and that sort of star anise licorice undertone is there in both too. So maybe Rive Gauche Pour Homme would be a good place to start if you find Azzaro Pour Homme a little dated for you. Next up, it's one that I don't own a full bottle of, but it's a real classic. I've got a sample here. It's Lalique's Encre Noire, one of the really important vetiver fragrances. I think Encre Noire means black ink. It's got a very dark, woody kind of feel with this one, vetiver being the keynote. So I'll spray my little sample to remind myself. Haven't really tried this for a while. Here we go, 3 sprays. Yeah, some people say pencil shavings. Really, really woody. Reminds you a little bit of pencil shavings. Vetiver. And a certain black metallic inkiness. Really fascinating fragrance. Not going to be for everybody, but it's similar to Chanel's Sycamore, a really high-end niche fragrance from Chanel that's very expensive. But this one, rather inexpensive, where you can find it in shops. Well worth trying. Definitely a classic and one of the most distinctive uses of vetiver that's out there. So yeah, a good call from her on that one. Next up is another one that I don't have a bottle of. It's Eau de Beau by L'Occitane. Now this one is a vanilla fragrance that is mixed with tobacco. So if you like tobacco and vanilla mixture, something a little bit sweeter and richer, this could be a really interesting one to try. I have tried it quite a few times in the shop. I enjoy it. It's pretty good. If you want something different, but in a somewhat similar vein, I would recommend Pure Havane by Thierry Mugler. That's really easy to find, and I think the Mugler Amen line is a flanker of Mugler's Amen. They're really key ones that you have to try to see if you like that line. I'm not the hugest fan overall, but I do like Pure Havane, and again, it's got a really kind of rich, deep feel to it, a tobacco note with a honey kind of cherry tobacco sweetness about it. Well worth trying if you can't find Eau de Beau. Both of them good choices, I think, if you're looking for something sweet with a tobacco note in the designer realm. Next up, it's Terre d'Hermès, of course a classic from Jean-Claude Ellena. So Terre d'Hermès, superb fragrance, kind of dirty orange mixed with vetiver. Lovely fresh opening on this one, and then vetiver is maybe the key thing that comes in after that. Let's just spray a bit on here from my sample. Again, I don't own the bottle. Yeah, again, it's got a really key vetiver note like Encre Noire, but much more fresh take on that. Really great masculine all-round fragrance, an absolute classic. So Terre d'Hermès, definitely a must-try. I have Yardley Citrus and Wood, which is essentially a copy of that, and I'm kind of happy with that, but if I didn't, I'd probably want a bottle of Terre d'Hermès, so yes, definitely a good call. Next up, she went for Bulgari Black. This is the one that looks a bit like a hockey puck. This one has a really distinctive kind of rubbery note that comes from Sichuan tea, apparently. It's also got leather and vanilla in it. It is a very fascinating and unique fragrance. It's getting a little bit harder to find on the shelves, I find, where I am today, but I have tried it and I do like it. The designer fragrance that it's often compared to that you might also enjoy if you like that one is Van Cleef & Arpels Midnight in Paris. Sadly, that one you're really going to have a hard time walking into any store and trying it. So you can buy samples at various places online. That could be worth doing. And then if you buy it online, it's still relatively inexpensive, though getting a little harder to find. I've got the EDT. There is a more expensive EDP. The ED2 will do me fine. Again, rubbery kind of note in there maybe. And it's got a very nice leather tone to it with a certain sweetness and a mysterious feel. Love Midnight in Paris. So that one or Bulgari's Black would be good choices for someone looking to explore the world of designer fragrances. Next up, she shows Kiehl's Original Musk. She described this as a clean, dirty, soapy, musky fragrance with some subtle floral undertones. I've tried it once, I can't remember much about it. Obviously, it's very musky. You and me both have to go and try it because I don't know much about that one, so she's made me think of that one. I often see it in the shops but pass it by. Time for me to try that one out again. Next is something that I do have, and it is Dior's Eau Sauvage. Not Sauvage, the more recent Johnny Depp advertised one, but Eau Sauvage from Dior. This is a real classic from 1966. It's a citrus aromatic or maybe citrus chypre fragrance. So it opens with a really, really excellent lemon and bergamot note. Mine is an older bottle. There is a new version out. The formula's probably changed a little bit, but I think they both smell similar enough that if you like the modern one, don't stress too much so that you have to find out about getting an old one. It's a brilliant citrus aromatic fragrance. It doesn't smell really dated today, and it will open the door up to that world of citrus fragrances. If you like this, you might explore niche stuff like Acqua di Parma fragrances and many of the other slightly more obscure ones that are based on this kind of theme that are out there. But Eau Sauvage from Dior, a real classic if you like something fresh, citrusy, with a little bit of bitterness and some herbal, interesting complexity to it, not like some of the modern aquatic citrus freshies. Eau Sauvage, a real classic that stands the test of time and is still on our shelves for a reason. One of my absolute favourites. Finally then, the 10th one on her list was M7's Oud Absolu. So the original M7 came back in the 2000s, then it went away, wasn't a big success, and it has come back now, reissued in this line, and like the Rive Gauche from Yves Saint Laurent, and so M7 Oud Absolu is the new name for it. Been a while again for me on this one, so I'm going to just spray a bit on what skin I have left to remind myself how this one smells. So the key note here is oud, and it was from a time when Tom Ford was in charge of things, creative stuff at Yves Saint Laurent. Oh, very sweet, rich fragrance, completely like anything else on this list. does have that, I think, what I recognise as the oud note. Not a big expert on oud. It's sweet and it's earthy. It's very rich and it's got a mysticalness that comes with the oud. Really sort of interesting, deep, rich fragrance. Definitely worth trying, and it opens the door for you to the whole world of oud fragrances. A lot of the designer companies have an oud one now, so there's many niche ones as well. So definitely a must try, because oud is now becoming a genre in itself in the fragrance game. So what did you think of her list? I thought it was an excellent list. Things I would probably stick on there and add on myself. I think I'd have to put Aventus in. It's not a designer fragrance, and her list was designer, but you can find that in most big department stores that do any niche stuff. Creed Aventus is one of the most hyped up, talked about fragrances in the fragrance world these days for men, and I think, yeah, you should try this. If you like it but can't afford it, there are numerous clones, including Club de Nuit Intense Man from Armaf and Al Haramain La Venture, which are much cheaper and can be got online and will do you a good job, so you can blind buy those if you like this. Be warned though, nothing smells quite like the real thing. Brilliant pineapple, citrus, bergamot, black currant mixed with a little bit of vanilla and jasmine, and very importantly smoky birchwood. A great fragrance. Everyone should try that, and maybe Creed's Green Irish Tweed while you're at it, I would say, is a good one to try out. So anything else? What do we leave off the list? Any really important ones that you should have put on there? I've got my own thoughts about what I might put in a list, but it was more interesting to do a different one. Some of the ones I don't have, it's opened my mind up to a few new possibilities. What did you think about that list and this video? Please let me know in the comments below. Remember, whatever we're doing in life, let's project. See you next time. Bye bye.